Black Myth Wukong is an upcoming third-person action RPG with stunning combat and graphics and is based heavily on Chinese mythology. In this video, we're going to be checking out everything we know about Black Myth Wukong, including our hands-on impressions with the game. It is a third-person action RPG that has captured the gaming world's attention with its visually stunning graphics, intriguing setting and lore, and an exciting-looking combat system. But how does it hold up? The game is being developed by Game Science Studio and is an ambitious project that draws inspiration from the classic Chinese novel Journey to the West. We'll be exploring the game's various aspects from the story, locations, the main character, and various systems. In Black Myth Wukong, players step into the shoes of Sun Wukong, the legendary Monkey King. It is set in a fantastical version of ancient China, loosely based on the 16th century Chinese novel Journey to the West. The game blends traditional mythology with a dark fantasy twist. Players can expect encounters with gods, demons, and other fantastical creatures as they unravel the main character's mythical journey. Our main character is the Monkey King Sun Wukong, who has been granted immortality. However, this immortality becomes both a blessing and a curse. His longevity allows him to witness centuries pass, but it also isolates him from mortal life. He can see the rise and fall of entire civilizations as he stays alone. The emotional toll of immortality eventually drags him down, leading us to some inner turmoil the main character will hopefully express. In the source material Journey to the West, Sun Wukong is known for his incredible speed and strength, as well as the ability to transform into various people, animals, and objects, all of which were displayed in the initial gameplay trailers for Black Myth Wukong. He wields a magical black iron staff that can grow in size or shrink based on its owner's commands, perfect for creating a weapon that could be used up close or at medium range at a moment's notice. According to the book, Wukong possesses several other abilities. He can also clone himself, use a cloud for traversal, and even leap entire buildings in a single bound. Take that, Superman. Being an ancient mythological figure also has its mystical perks, as Wukong has some degree of magic at his disposal. He can change or at the very least manipulate the weather itself, or even control and influence minor spirits. The game world is vast and meticulously crafted, as players will traverse diverse landscapes, lush forests, towering mountains, ancient temples, and hidden caves. If Elden Ring taught us anything, every nook and cranny holds secrets waiting to be discovered. However, players should not expect an open-world exploration experience, as the game is mission-based and each mission seems to be mostly a boss fight. From what I've played so far of the game, even though there are some levels that are much larger than others, generally speaking, you go through a couple of enemies and you're to a boss fight within 5 minutes. That typically seems to be the way the game's played so far. We'll see if that holds up throughout the whole game. The game's combat system is heavily influenced by the Soul genre and inspiration that it proudly wears on its sleeve. We have an ever-present stamina bar that depletes when performing actions like attacking, dodging, or running, and the game also has a healing gourd similar to Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, another game that draws inspiration from Asian culture. I will also note that the dodging in Black Myth Wukong is nearly instantaneous, and it feels like the speed in which you can dodge or the animations which you can dodge out of are almost limitless. In short, dodging in Black Myth Wukong is the best I've ever seen in an action RPG. Wukong will also be able to swap through various stances or forms to be able to highlight a particular combat style at any given time. These are called Smash Form, Pillar Form, and Thrust Form. Like Lost Ark's Glaivier class, Wukong can switch between specializing in stabbing and poking with his staff or using wide-angle sweeps. Players will also, of course, be able to chain hits together, beautifully weaving light and heavy attacks in a satisfying string of combo hits. And while we don't know what other kinds of weapons Sun Wukong can make use of, at least in his base form, we do know that he can change forms in combat, making for some dynamic chains of attacks. From what I've seen so far and what I've played, the skills ceiling for this game is going to be incredibly high. Players who excel at this game are going to be able to perform things that are just miles and miles ahead of the average player. Black Myth Wukong also seems to be sitting in the spectrum between Lies of P, Sekiro, and Bloodborne, as it places great emphasis on speed and relentless offense, instead of slower and more calculated attacks like you'd see in the likes of Lords of the Fallen or Dark Souls. Due to the nature of the character, making the most of his agility will be paramount to victory. And because you can dodge so quickly, players will be able to make use of their lightning-fast reflexes at a moment's notice. Wukong can't block enemy hits. Instead, you'll need to rely on staying on your toes by dancing around the battlefield, either by simply running around, jumping, or dodging. Evading could also lean into the offensive side, as the developers have teased that there's an unlock later on that will create a phantom copy of yourself from where you evaded that will automatically counterattack an enemy that tries to attack it. Additionally, there does seem to be like a stone form in the game similar to Mortal Shell that will allow you to take a hit and then, attack afterward. Another skill that Sun Wukong generously makes use of is the ability to create clones of himself right out of thin air. This will have many practical combat applications in Black Myth, the most obvious of which is to make distractions that can lead the enemy in a certain direction, opening them up to some well-timed back attacks. And as mentioned, Sun Wukong's ability to transform into different creatures almost immediately adds tons of strategic depth and options in combat. Whether you become an agile insect, a hulking beast, or something in between, each form grants unique skills. Adaptability is key in intense battles, where switching forms at the right moment can turn the tide. One form that was shown is the humble cicada. This bug form is heavily showcased in some of the earlier parts of the trailers, setting the stage for some monologue and story exposition. We don't know just yet whether the cicada form will be usable in combat, as it looks like it has no practical way of dealing damage. Perhaps the one biggest use it could have is to dodge enemy attacks as an emergency button. Wukong can also take the form of some defeated enemies, though probably not all of them. Some footage includes the character transforming into a massive gray feline, who traded staff strikes for bait hand or claw brawling. This form lets Wukong deal massive AoE damage to everything in the nearby vicinity. The transformation also lets him jump in the air and crash down into foes, which knocks them back, giving you some much needed breathing room. He also turned into a fiery martial artist who can set his staff ablaze. I used this in my gameplay session when I was playing the game, and I can tell you that it's incredibly awesome to switch into this form and then set enemies on fire. Another form that was shown was some sort of creature that looked as if it fell face first into rock and soil. There's no easy way to describe this transformation, as it looks as odd as it sounds. Since this creature type is quite literally just a mud ball with legs, it doesn't make use of traditional attacks. Instead, it rams itself into enemies to deal damage. Alternatively, it can just fall over and break off the extra grime and dirt, letting Wukong return to his normal monkey self. In the book, Wukong can transform into over 70 distinct forms. This would be highly impractical, not to mention difficult to implement in a video game, so only the best of his forms will make it into Black Myth Wukong, probably. As mentioned previously, one of the most striking features of the game is the emphasis on boss fights and mini-boss fights. The trailer showcases a variety of enemies, some of them huge in size and scope, such as the dragon fight that resembles a Monster Hunter World encounter. Bosses come in all sizes as well, as you have some human-sized opponents that you'll need to contend with. As mentioned previously, the game seems to focus more on these epic and challenging battles than on level design and the enemies in between. Black Myth's big focus on boss fights is also an exciting affair, as these encounters will take place in unique arenas specific to each enemy. We've seen some majestic areas such as in front of a massive bell tower and burning courtyard, and even a frozen lake, as well as a blood pool. Just like in the novel, Sun Wukong often faces off against these larger-than-life entities, gods, demons, and other mythical creatures, oftentimes in extreme grandeur as well. Customization plays a significant role in Sun Wukong's journey, though this is not something we were privy to and did not have access to when we got to play the game. Skill trees will allow players to allocate points, enhance combat prowess, unlock new moves, and improve survivability. However, there has been no coverage yet on specific skill tree unlocks, and what kind of perks you may have, or even if there will be an in-depth leveling system where you can allocate points to certain attributes. Unlike Elden Ring, you aren't a generic character in Black Myth Wukong, so there is a certain assumption of what kind of fighter you may be. A lot of progression will likely come from gaining and upgrading spells that you receive from certain bosses, such as the Pluck of the Many, the Clone Summon ability, Immobilize, freezes enemies in place, Stone Solid, freeze yourself in place, and Ring of Fire, burn everything that's not you. It is also said that there will be certain spell interactions that the player can learn that may not be too apparent at the start. For example, drinking a healing gourd will be more effective when you're inside your Ring of Fire as compared to when you take a swig outside of it. Perhaps Wukong just really likes to watch the world burn. You'll also discover powerful artifacts, armor, and weapons throughout your adventure. Upgrading gear is essential for survival. Balancing offense, defense, and utility becomes a strategic option. There haven't been any specifics yet on what types of gear you'll be able to place onto Wukong, but we know these are in the game. Players will also collect various potions and elixirs to use to help enhance certain combat capabilities, depending on whether they want to offset some of their weaknesses or lean heavily towards one stat group. As of now, no official release date has been announced. However, it has been speculated that the title will be releasing sometime in the summer of this coming year, which may or may not coincide with Elden Ring's Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. Black Myth Wukong is expected to be a premium title that will cost $69.99 USD, given its ambitious approach to the Souls-like genre. Its visual quality, exciting combat, and different lore focus seem like they will make it worth the price of admission for action RPG fans, though we reserve final judgment until we play the full version of the game. The game has already been in development for several years following its initial announcement back in February 2020. Black Myth Wukong's initial interest was sparked by the title's extremely impressive visuals and intriguing focus on a different mythology. It was originally developed using Unreal Engine 4, but later on swapped to the newer Unreal Engine 5. This is so that the developers could leverage the advanced engine's capabilities and create even more visually stunning graphics. So that wraps up everything we know about Black Myth Wukong. I'm hoping that it doesn't drop right around the same time the Elden Ring DLC is, whenever that comes out. I'm hoping they will have some sort of announcement trailer about this soon. Maybe the Game Awards, we might see something there as well. Stay tuned for that. And again, I want to mention that this is a game that seems like it's focused more heavily on boss fights and boss encounters, and the strategy involved in those and the complexity and challenge of those, rather than world exploration like Elden Ring is. What do you guys think so far? Did you guys learn anything new from this video? Let me know in the comments below.